Lost Girl Therapy. This is the final part of everything that I tried for POTS, dysautonomia, and jugular vein compression. So we left off with core energetics. Now, during the core energetics period, I had gotten diagnosed with jugular vein compression, and the only reason that I started noticing that it was significant was when I was doing the Levine protocol and I started doing the treadmill. I had a ton of fear being on the treadmill. I really was not comfortable being on it, which is weird because I love to walk. I love to do treadmill workouts, but I noticed that I had a hesitation. At this point, I had been avoiding doing crunches or really anything where my neck bent forward, and I didn't really know why until I got on a treadmill and I noticed that I became incredibly disoriented as I looked down. When I would look down at the time on the treadmill, or if I wanted to play something on my phone, I would become really disoriented and very dizzy, and I basically just trained myself to look forward. When I was doing somatic therapy, I also got diagnosed with binocular visual disturbance. So I went to the Neurovisual Center on Long Island, Dr. Marissa Zimmerman. She diagnosed me with BVD. I got these fun glasses. Everything started getting a little bit better, but I did still notice that when I was on the treadmill and I looked down, I became disoriented, and it basically felt like I was cutting off my air supply. That is how we discovered that I had jugular vein compression, because I had a neurologist that took me really seriously when I said, hey, all of this is getting better except for this. Chin to chest, or if I turn left or turn right for an extended period of time, I basically feel like I'm going to faint. When I got the jugular vein compression diagnosis, I really did not know what to do with it because I was not eligible for surgery. So I just started modifying all of my workouts to accommodate the fact that I could not bend my head certain ways. And for a period of time that did work. There were a lot of adjustments that I made to the Levine protocol, but I really just avoided yoga. I avoided Pilates. I just didn't do anything like that. I just tried to accommodate as best I could. I was talking to my doctor at integrative health at Weill Cornell, Dr. Bianca Lee. She was wonderful. And she basically was like, hey, have you heard of the Alexander method? And I was like, no. And she recommended that I try it. She gave me a list of she basically described the entire thing to me and was like, try this out. And I found a practitioner that I absolutely loved working with. And that was a game changer for not only how I held fear in my body, but also how I compressed in my neck when I did certain movements. Now, I would not tell anybody who is in a heightened state of POTS to do the Alexander method, mainly because there is a lot of physical manipulation as well as physical movement that can trigger a POTS episode. So my first few rounds of sessions, all I did was lay on a table. And it's basically moving your body back into a ideal posture for you. And I felt really good. But when we started moving into postures okay, the practitioner is going to help you bend forward or do a roll down, I did notice that a lot of my symptoms would flare. Now, I am at a place where my symptoms flare and I am able to tell, is this going to escalate to an episode or not? If you are not somebody who's reached that level of awareness yet, do not try the Alexander method because it is a very trusting process. You are doing something in tandem with a practitioner, and if you don't know your own signals, they don't know your signals. So this is very different from physical therapy. In physical therapy, I had somebody who knew what they were doing with dysautonomia and was highly conservative when it came to putting me into positions that could trigger a POTS episode. With the Alexander method, it's much more of a mutual relationship where we're just going to thoughtfully see what happens next. I had made her aware of all of the things that would technically trigger me, and she definitely took those into consideration, which I'm very grateful for. But there's also a level of trust that I needed to build with myself to say you're okay. If we're gonna do a forward roll or a bend forward, you're going to be okay. You know how to handle this scenario if it goes worst case or if it goes best case. Doing those sessions gave me the confidence to reintroduce yoga. And I have started doing yoga once a week for 20 minutes. And I will tell you that those sessions helped me identify how I was doing certain positions that exacerbated compression or made it better. And so those attunements were very important. They changed the way that I worked out, but I would never have been able to accommodate these types of adjustments 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or even before I got sick, because I would have just said well, this is how I've always done it. The Alexander method was really about teaching me what it meant to rebuild trust within my own body, and I could only do that after the somatic therapy experience. It also required me to have a level of intuition about what my body needed or what it didn't, and there were plenty of times in the sessions where I would say, hey, I actually think that we need to do something different. And I was very lucky to have a practitioner who listened to me and trusted me. And I think working in tandem with them made all the difference, because had I had a practitioner who was like, we only do things this one way, I don't know if I would have had the amount of healing that I had occur in those sessions. I noticed a drastic difference in it alleviating all of my neck pain. It changed the way that I experienced headaches. So the tension went away, the migraine symptoms reduced. It also changed the way, like, how forward my head sits, because I'm very mindful of like how to reposition, and I know how to adjust myself without forcing adjustment. And that is where it really just like made everything better. But I don't think that I could have done this 3 years ago. If you guys have any questions, or if you want to know more about like in depth about each one of these practices, let me know. I know that this has been a lengthy series, but I think it's important for you to have the context so you understand what I was going through and why I chose certain things in order to alleviate the symptoms that I was experiencing in that day.